Hey guys, so do we like the fit? I kind of like it. It's kind of like getting into my style, you know? This is in between classes, so that's great. It's very cloudy today, so the lighting will definitely change, and I'm very, very sorry, but I just wanted to film today because I got all ready, and yeah, that's that. Today I'm going to be talking about the books that I want to read within the fall season. This originally was supposed to be like an October TBR, but well, I'm a very mood reader, so I honestly don't know what I'm gonna read, but I definitely want to get through at least half of these books this fall. And yeah, let's get started. So the first book is a book that I started, but I think I might have to reread it again. And that is Blue Lily, Lily Blue by Maggie Stiefvater. I just sort of stopped reading it for a while. I don't know exactly when I'm gonna get back to it, but I have been wanting to get back into this world again. This is a very popular series in this community. It's basically about these three boys and this girl Blue who are trying to search for this Welsh king, Glendower, I think his name is. It follows like magic, and Blue actually is an amplifier for her family, which are full of psychics, but she does not have like any psychic abilities. She's just the amplifier, basically meaning making any powers around her stronger. I'm not vibing with my hair right now. So yeah, I've been wanting to read it for a while now, but I just haven't really gotten around to it, and yeah. And the next book is Imagine Me by Tahara Mafi. This is the last book in her Shadow Me series, which is originally supposed to be a trilogy, but she ended up extending the books. And honestly, it could have stayed a trilogy, even though it's one of my favorite series. But I have been keeping up with them so far, and I just haven't gotten to this one yet. But if you guys don't know what the series is about, the first book follows a girl, Julia, and she has this killer touch where she can kill anyone with her touch. So she's in like this asylum or whatever. This is also a dystopian novel, so everything is very corrupt and, you know, dystopian. In the first book, she writes her word, like, I love the writing in the first book, and I understand why it stops throughout the series, but she like scratches it out and then rewrites it, if that makes sense. If you read it, you know what I'm saying. But I'm excited to get to it. I feel like fall reads are very like fantasy reads. I don't really want to read contemporaries, but if any contemporaries show up that I get interested in, then I'll make sure to read it, you know what I mean? The next book is A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. I have caught up with the last two books, and I've read them like a couple years ago, and I was waiting so long for this book to come out that when it did, I just never got around to it. I loved the first book so much, and even though I can't really remember much of the second book, I also loved that as well. But going into this book, I haven't had much motivation getting into this book, but recently I have just been wanting to, but like being like too intimidated by reading it. I don't even know why. It's not even that big of a book. It's just, I feel like it's so dense, and I've forgotten so much about the story that I don't think I'd be able to keep up, if that makes sense. But this series follows this girl Leia, who her family has been taken from her, and her brother has been taken from her. Her family was murdered in front of her, but she joins this rebel force to get her brother back, and they sent her into the Empire as a slave to spy on them and obviously, you know, bring it back and forth. And then she ends up meeting Elias, who is one of the highest soldiers in the Empire, but he doesn't want to be there, and he was actually planning on leaving it, but he meets Leia, and they form this bond, or they don't. It's very slow burn for me, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. So yeah, I want to get to that book. And the next book is Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. I read The Savage Song last year, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really, really good read. I just never got around to this book, so we're gonna try and change that. I don't exactly remember what it's about, I just know it has something to do with monsters. Basically, one of the main characters is a monster, and in this world, monsters feed on souls through music, and the main character uses his violin for that. And then from what I remember, it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet sort of aspect, where it's like two different sides of the city, you know, it's kind of like enemies, if that makes sense. I just don't remember. But I remember I really enjoyed it and I tabbed it a bunch, so I need to get to this book. And I know that this book isn't probably going to be as good, or it's not going to give the same feels as the Savage Song, but yeah, so that's that. And again, I'm sorry about the lighting. The next book is a book that I didn't really want to get into for a while. Like, I got the book and then I was just kind of like, I don't really want to read it anymore. But now I kind of do again, because I remember how much I loved the first book and the second book. And that is Finale by Stephanie Garber. So these books are basically like this whole Caraval game. Scarlet is participating and she's trying to find her sister, and it gets really intense. But yeah, I just want to get back into this like magical sort of universe. I just finished reading Harry Potter for the first time, and I just need something like sort of magical to read, and this is probably like the closest book that I own that is like magical like that, or that gives me like sort of the same vibes. So the next book is one that I recently just rekindled my inspiration to read it. Furyborn by Claire Legrand. But I don't know much. I just know that like the basics around it, and that is that there are two different storylines and each of them are 1,000 years apart. And I believe, you know, I'm assuming that they're going to collide at some point. I heard Olivia Reads a Lot, or Olivia Reads a Latte talk about this book, and I was like, that actually sounds really good. So now I kind of want to read it again. I don't know if I'm gonna keep on with the series, it just depends on how I'm liking it, but as for now, I'm just planning on reading this book. Yeah, also I have class. I'm starting this very unhealthy habit of recording during class or between breaks, and of course I talk a lot, so it's cutting into class time. Anyway, the next book is one that I've been wanting to read for a year, and I actually didn't even know I owned it. Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This is a standalone, so I'm hoping that that will just be one aspect, because I don't really want to be in any book slumps, because I already suffered from one for like 5 months this year. It wasn't that great. I'm pretty sure this book is where the books, or this girl, main character, don't know her name, but she works at a library, and basically you have to like open the books or like caress the books. I don't know, but the books are like alive. I think maybe like one of the books get loose, but it's basically where the books in the library are real. Like the stories are alive. It just seems very interesting to me. Yeah, these are I have to go by pretty quick. The next book that I want to get to is We Hunt the Flame. I don't want to pronounce the name, but this is the name. I just don't want to butcher it. So this follows a girl and a boy, and the girl is pretending to be like a boy, so kind of in like that Mulan situation. She can't be caught. The boy is supposed to be heartless, so if he shows compassion, his father will just disown him or something. And I'm assuming that there's going to be some sort of like relationship in it. I've heard Jamie from Leo Reads, or I think she changed her name. It's not Leo Reads anymore. I think it's just Jamie McDermott. I think that's her name. I've heard her talk about it like maybe a year ago, and I was kind of like, that sounds really good. And at the time, this was only $8 from Amazon, so I was like, why not? The next book is probably an obvious one, especially because it's October. Hunting Prince Dracula. Definitely in the Halloween vibes. I've read the first book earlier this year, and I really enjoyed it. In the first book, they're stalking Jack the Ripper, of course, trying to figure out who these things are, but in this one, of course, they're hunting Prince Dracula. I'm not going to do much explaining on it, but I know a lot of people love this series, and that is why I'm going to be reading it. And the last book is going to be Girls of Storm and Shadow, and I believe this is going to be my next read. I'm going to read this out of any of these books this one is definitely going to be a for sure. I loved the first book, and I'm so mad at myself that I didn't read this right when it came out. I'm excited. This follows, to me, it's like a darker version of The Selection. So these girls, you know, in The Selection, how they're like divided into like numbers or something, and the lower the number, like the higher ranking you are. That's kind of like this, but it's in casts, and the main character is a paper cast, and she is like definitely looked down upon, but she is forced to compete in this trial to be the king's sidekick or something like that. There's trigger warnings for rape, and I know there's something else too, but I just can't remember. But yeah, it was a really good story. There's also a female-female romance, and yeah. But yeah, that is what I plan on reading for fall. I hope you guys enjoy this video and tell me what you guys are excited to read in the fall, and I hope you guys are having a great day, you know? And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.
Fish! What? Fish! Oh, no! Fish! What do I do? Ah! It got me! It got me! What do I do? It got me, Winston! What do I do? It burns! Okay! It burns!